But Mercer cannot win. But Mercer cannot win. He really needs to just stop talking. That Mercer cannot win. Hello and welcome to another chapter of stuff I don't care about. But apparently it's news, and of course people are upset because it involves Matt Mercer, the man who should just shut up and cannot win. So apparently Wizards of the Coast had a presence at GarryCon this weekend. I'm waiting to hear back from our friend Venger to hear how much of a presence, but apparently they were there in some form because, you know, one of the big things that Wizards of the Coast wanted us to make sure we knew was they were going to start being at conventions again at 2024. Mind you, they never stopped being at conventions, but they want you to know that they were going to be back at conventions starting in 2024. Again, there is no point in time when they weren't at conventions, but you know, it's Wizards of the Coast, so they like to manipulate the truth. Anyways, as part of the I'm just kind of weird that they were at GarryCon. I was always under the impression that GarryCon was a Wizards of the Coast free zone, that it was all about embracing Gygax and the stuff Gygax, you know, created. Why would you have Wizards of the Coast, who have gone on record of saying how much they hate Gary Gygax, at a convention that was supposed to celebrate Gary Gygax? I'm really curious about that, Luke Gygax, but whatever, money is money. So they were there, or there was a video, and during the video, they were talking about the new 2024 Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide that's coming out in November. I mean, we'll get to the second of the pecking order of why I think, you know, it's pointless, but whatever. And somehow during this point, it came out that Matt Mercer and Deborah and Woll were consulting on this new DM guide. Chris Perkins made a big deal out of the fact that Mercer was consulting, Deborah was consulting, a third person, possibly celebrity, was consulting. So I wonder if it's TJ. So yeah, and of course, because it's Mercer, and because it's because it's Critical Role, and of course because of the last year, there were some slings and arrows. So basically, it boils down to, we thought Matt Mercer's relationship with Wizards of the Coast was over. They've said the contract is up. They've said the NDAs are up. And we thought that after the whole OGL thing, which a huge chunk of was specifically aimed at Critical Role and trying to take money away from him, and then starting their own production company, that they were done associating with Wizards of the Coast. So what is Matt Mercer doing here, talking about that he consulted on the new DMG? So I'm gonna try and do a little theory crafting, a little detective work here. Of course, I could be completely wrong. But first and foremost, the word used was consult. Not write, not edit, not do any actual work. Consult. I mean, consult is a big, vague umbrella that you could put a lot or a little work under. I consulted on something. That could have just simply been as me being in the same room, or saying, yeah, I think that's a dumb idea. You know, we don't know the level of consulting. It could just be a little, a little glory hounding, a little Wizards of the Coast saying, yeah, Matt Mercer consulted on this. And that could have simply been as much as a phone call or whatever that's going, hey, what do you think of this idea? And Mercer could have gone, and I was like, hey, that was a consultation. I mean, if there was an exchange of money involved, usually that means a consultation, but there's plenty of things I consulted on in my history that didn't really mean anything, but still I could say, hi, I consulted on that. And if money was involved, great. But there, but let's also not forget that Mercer has worked for them for a while, but at least until towards the end of last year. So this could have been something that he did last year or the year before, and it's just something that's been sitting around and now they can use it. We don't know how long they've been working on the 2024 DM's guide. The only book we know anything about is the Player's Handbook, right? Because we saw the play tests and we've been talking about that for a year, but we know nothing about the DMG other than it's going to be larger than the last one and include, 71 new pieces of art and entire chapters dedicated to pointless things. So what does consulting mean? Or does this mean that he went against the promises he made to the gaming community and to the Critical Role fans and has re-signed to work for D&D again and write for them? And yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking it's either A, it was something he already did when he was still under contract and they've just been sitting on it till now because the DMG doesn't really require that much work. Or two, it was a one-off where he was doing a favor and, Perkins is like, hey, do you want $10 to tell me whether you like this or not? And Mercer was like, fuck, dude, you're my friend. Sure, I'll do it. Or three, yeah, at the end of the day, he's a businessman. And if Wizards of the Coast came to him and said, we will give you an outrageous sum of money to consult on our new DM's guide. And Mercer's like, well, you know what? I can't win with the OGL no matter what I do. So fuck them. I'm going to go back to the people who actually like me. Except, of course, we know Wizards of the Coast doesn't like Mercer and neither does his fans. And Mercer seems to have forgotten that one of the huge chunks of the OGL fiasco was Wizards trying to take money out of them. And then Wizards is still trying to put them out of business with their fallbacks. I mean, the fallbacks thing is Wizards blatantly saying, screw you, Critical Role. We're making our own. We don't need you. Consulted. He consulted on the new DM's guide, which could mean absolutely nothing. So now we're getting into my pecking order. And, personally, I think the DM's guide should have been third. Right? The Monster Manual probably should have been the first book to be released, because that is the one that's easiest to put together. And that's the one that's most likely to get people going, ooh, that's the one where the artwork matters, right? The Monster Manual. And the Monster Manual is the easiest to do. So I'm still not sure why it's the last, why we're not seeing it till February of next year. All the work's been done. You've got 10 years of 5th edition Monsters, both for stuff you've made and third party. It's all sitting on the computer. Sure, you might have to change one or two things to be, online with whatever you change in the player's handbook, rules-wise, but how much work is that? A weekend? 2 or 3 guys working over a couple days to go through each Monster Manual? I mean, you could just put it all together and then just run an algorithm. And if then, right? If this word replaced with that word, it doesn't feel like putting the Monster Manuals together would have been that much work. It feels like it's the easiest. 90% of the work's been done. Then you release the DM's guide or the player's handbook, or you release them at the same time, because the DM's guide, especially this DM's guide, from everything we've heard about it, is 80% fluff. It's, it's entire chapters on safety tools and how to run for kids and how to take old stuff and convert it to new stuff. There's not going to be any actual, it doesn't feel like there's going to be any actual rules, any secret things in this one that isn't in the player's handbook. Maybe there'll be an appendix N and the random generation tables, but probably other than the magic items section, which, let's face it, that's 80% of the reason people get the DM's guide anyways, is for the magic items section, right? It feels like it's just going to be art and fluff, right? So Matt Mercer consulting on a book that's mostly fluff doesn't really feel like it's a betrayal to the OGL or the fans, right? And it's not like the OGL is going to change their opinion of him anyways. It's not like the ORSR is going to go, well, Matt Mercer did say he's not working with Wizards of the Coast anymore, so we love him now. No, the people that hate him are always going to hate him. And then, you do the player's handbook. Either you do the Monster Manual first, player's handbook second, Dungeon Master's Guide third, and you don't wait till February of next year to release it, especially with the Monster Manual and the DM's Guide being so easy. There's very little work involved. Most of it's already been done. Player's handbook is the most work because it's the most changes. But they had to drag Mercer out, and he had to make this comment. And, of course, because it's Matt Mercer can't win. So really, at this point in time, especially after the last year, Matt Mercer should have just kept his mouth shut. Why can't you learn your lesson, dude? You're obviously intelligent. I get that you're trying to fix the damage that you've done to your fan base and maybe try and fix whatever damage is between you and the OSR. but it's never going to happen. And you're smart enough to know it. You should have just kept your mouth shut. Let them say you consulted on it. You don't say anything. Because all this does is continue the I hate Matt Mercer puddle of goop that's never going to go away. You need to stop, dude. You need to take a break. You need to walk away. You need to work behind the scenes. You don't need to come out and go, I consulted on the DM guide. Love me again, D&D fans, because the people, it's nothing you do is going to change the damage that's been done. Oh, but Daggerheart's the largest. Yeah, no, it's just, one episode broke some records, but it's not going to repair 2 years of damage. So, yeah. But anyways, Mercer, something. Really, the question is, again, what was Wizards of the Coast doing at GarryCon? Because I was always under the impression that GarryCon was a Wizards of the Coast free zone. Don't we know that Wizards of the Coast supposedly hate? Maybe he is. Maybe he does suffer from that. I mean, maybe he is one of those people that thinks it's at least its attention. At least people are paying attention to me. I mean, he's not going to repair the damage. You know, the OSR has never liked him. They never will like him. This is just going to make him look weak again. The D&D, the 5e, the D&D critters who are angry at him. This isn't going to, it's not going to change anything. But maybe she's right. Maybe Grandma's right. Maybe he just sees it as attention. Really, what were you again? Wizards of the Coast has said Gary Gygax would not, be able to make product today. He wouldn't pass the inclusion. He's an old white man that they want nothing to do with. Why would Luke allow Wizards of the Coast, a company who is pooping on his father's legacy, at a convention embracing the legacy of Gary Gygax? That's really what I'm more interested in. Now, we want to go to people who at the con, at GarryCon, who I actually, know and I think kind of matter. Like I said, I reached out to somebody who was at GarryCon to get a response, and it's this dude, this handsome face. Look at that face. Yeah. Now, politics-wise, I think it's fair to say that, when it comes to politics, Venger and I are on opposite ends of the screen. But everything else, his creativity stuff, his videos, his sense of humor, definitely appreciate this guy. Definitely in my list of, 100 people I'd love to game with at least once. He's at GarryCon. So I sent a thing to him. Again, about what were they doing there? How was it received? And how did he feel at GarryCon? Venger, because Venger also does his own con called VengerCon, which is all about old school. And he, it's supposed to be Wizards of the Coast free zone. So really, that's my question, is not what Mercer said or didn't say, or whether we're angry about it or not. I think I'm more just like, what were Wizards of the Coast doing there? These are people who just a few weeks ago said something. Gary Gygax is a fucking racist, basically, and we want nothing to do with him because he wouldn't live up to our standards of today. And yet, GarryCon, Luke Gygax, a convention dedicated to the legacy of Gary, had a Wizards of the Coast presence. So I'm hoping Venger will answer some questions about that. I think, Venger knows. I'm on an opposite political side from him. I've told him as much. I don't think he cares, but, he's got cool stuff that I appreciate, and I've got cool stuff he appreciates. So who the fuck cares who he voted for and who I voted for and what he feels about? I know, if all I care about is gaming. Anyways, that's about it. Just thought I'd point out the Mercer thing because I know it's going to be a topic for the rest of the week. So I thought I'd report it first. And, in the end of the day, I don't care because it's Mercer Consulting on the DM's guide for 5th edition 2024, which we know the DM's guide is going to be 80% marshmallow fluff anyways. So let's get, a guy who's known for writing fluff. Then and as an actor and as a name, and he's friends with Chris Perkins, and if a few people get angry, so what? So it's not like he did any real work. Maybe he wrote something. Maybe he just went, like I said at the beginning, maybe he just went, yeah, that's a good idea. And that was the level of the consulting. I don't know. That's all I got. It's raining. Be careful out there. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.